Hello, Year 11. I'm Mr. Atherall. Just wanted to talk a little bit about the curious incident of the dog in the nighttime. I've just got back from London where I saw a screening of it. It's the first time I've had a chance to actually watch it. And the difference between analysing a play and analysing a novel is that you need to think about it as a play, think about it as something in performance. So just as I was watching, I just made a few notes about things that I thought were interesting in terms of its presentation as a stage production. I'd recommend seeing it if you can. I know some of you have had that opportunity already, or at least watching the clips that are available on the BBC Bite Size page, so that you've got a sense of what it's like in front of an audience if you haven't already had a chance. So I'm just going to run through a few things that I think are interesting points to make about it as a piece of drama. So first of all, Siobhan as a narrator. So she's got an interesting role where she's narrating the story. She takes on the voice of Christopher and at times other characters as well. So she's interesting as a dramatic device. And I just noticed as I watched it, particularly at the beginning, where you've got Christopher and the police, and there's high tension and high nervousness from him, and then suddenly his voice is taken over by Siobhan, and that tension is alleviated a little when her voice comes in, and it releases that tension because suddenly you're skipping forward to a time in the future when he's not in that moment of panic. He's just retelling it rather than living in that moment. So I thought it was interesting how Siobhan released the tension at those moments. And also, it was interesting, particularly in the first half of the play, Christopher and his relationship with his father. And Christopher often gets very excited or carried away with what he's talking about. Maybe he's talking about space or something mathematical or something scientific. And his dad often responds with just single word answers. And the brevity of his response is partly that he's a simple man, and he's not fascinated with the same things that Christopher is fascinated with. And as a result, I think he struggles, particularly in the first half, to empathise with Christopher and understand things from his perspective. And part of the times when he's harsh to Christopher is because of that lack of empathy. So that interaction between them, where he gives very, very brief responses, gives us a lack of connection between father and son. And it's something potentially worth talking about if you've got a question that leads you to consider their relationship. The other thing that I noticed particularly was when Judy was reading her letters to Christopher, or rather, he was reading them for himself. He's sat there on the stage making his train tracks, and she's reading those letters, and it feels almost, when you see it, that he is ignoring her, and that again dramatically shows a disconnection between their relationship. She is becoming increasingly open and honest and increasingly vulnerable with the things that she's disclosing to him, while he is focused solely on his train tracks. And so again, visually, that disconnect between this time mother and son is shown through him being absorbed in his train tracks, while she is being open and vulnerably honest, but not getting any obvious response. I also thought it was interesting that towards the end of the first scene as well, there's the betrayal of Christopher's father is kind of unveiled or discovered by Christopher. He discovers that he's been lied to, and Christopher has this moment where he breaks down. He's sick, and his father finds him and helps him to undress and helps him to clear up his sick. And that moment was an incredibly tender moment on stage, and a kind of really important moment. Whereas before, Christopher's father's largely been harsh or uncommunicative or a difficult character to like. Suddenly we see this really caring moment where he takes time and makes an effort to help Christopher through the distress that he's actually feeling. So just a few different moments, and it's worth considering just in terms of writing about the curious incident of the dog in the nighttime, to remember that you need to consider it as drama. So when you're using a quote, thinking about writing sentences that say things like, the audience responds to this, or Stevens creates the visual image of. So talking about either the visual image that's created on stage, or talking about the direct audience response, the emotional response that the audience will feel at those moments. Okay, thank you.